podcast where truth moves faster than a Holstein calf. No waiting on some pretty page. We're charting new ground in the digital age. From genomic codes to row-wide facts, we cut through the noise, no holding back. Not your daddy's dairy news tonight. We're sparking debates with every insight. The ring's not where the real fight's at. It's in the data, in the channel chat. From pasture to processor to your morning cup, we're raising the stakes. Try and get ahead of herd. Yeah! Where the future's more than just a word. Ahead of herd. Come on! The bullvine's calling, let your voice be heard.
Welcome to the Bullvine Podcast, where we challenge conventional dairy wisdom and deliver the cutting-edge insights that progressive producers need to stay ahead. I'm your host, bringing you bold analysis and evidence-based strategies that transform dairy operations from ordinary to exceptional. Today's episode tackles a hidden profit leak that's costing dairy producers hundreds of dollars per cow annually. We're diving deep into selenium supplementation strategy and why the approach your nutritionist recommended might be throwing money away while leaving your herd vulnerable to costly health problems. If you've ever wondered why some operations struggle with elevated somatic cell counts and reproductive failures despite using premium mineral programs, this episode will open your eyes to the uncomfortable truth about selenium yeast quality and the game-changing research that's revolutionizing trace mineral nutrition. Let's get started.
Welcome to The Deep Dive, the show where we really try to cut through the noise, and get straight to the insights that actually impact your operation.
Great to be diving in.
And today we're kicking off with something that, it might just shake up how you think about your bottom line.
Seriously.
Go on. Imagine this hidden drain on your profits. A silent thief, maybe, costing you hundreds of dollars per cow, often without you even realizing it.
Okay. That sounds serious.
We're talking about a figure that the latest Bullvine article flags, and it can easily blow past $700 per cow annually.
$700.
Oh, cow.
Yeah. Just let that sink in for a second. $700.
That's a number that definitely grabs your attention. And it points to, maybe a blind spot many producers have, even the ones who feel they're managing things pretty tightly.
Absolutely. Because the latest research, it's telling a bit of a different story, isn't it?
It really is.
So today, we're taking a deep dive into something pretty fundamental to herd health, but maybe surprisingly misunderstood. Selenium supplementation in dairy cows. Right. It's a staple. Everyone uses it.
Exactly. It's not about if you use selenium. Pretty much every operation does. The critical question, and this is what that recent Bullvine article really hammers home, is how you use it.
Mm-hmm. The how is key.
Because, as we're about to unpack, current strategies, the way many are doing it now, it might actually be bleeding your operation dry.
So our mission today, really, is to arm you with the cutting-edge research.
Yeah.
Challenge some of that conventional wisdom.
Yeah, let's unpack all the layers of this. We want to separate the real science from maybe just marketing claims,
And show you how to turn what might be a hidden cost right now.
A big hidden cost.
Into a very real competitive advantage for your farm. It's about optimizing, not just supplementing.
And this isn't just like academic theory. This is about your bottom line, your herd's health, their productivity.
Real dollars and cents.
Right. And making smarter, evidence-based decisions right now, especially, with the way the dairy economy is. It keeps throwing challenges at us.
No doubt about that.
The insights we're sharing today, they're pulled directly from that Bullvine article. It's really sparked some chatter, hasn't it?
It definitely has. Got people talking.
So yeah, these insights are pretty critical for anyone looking to really optimize their operation.
Okay, let's get into it.
Let's start by really unpacking that startling number, the one that immediately caught our eye in the Bullvine piece, $700 per cow.
Yeah, it's hard to ignore.
It's a huge chunk of change, and it's tied directly, they say, to selenium deficiency. So what exactly makes up this hefty cost? How does not having enough selenium pile up like that financially?
Well, that $700 figure, it's unfortunately not just pulled out of thin air. It comes from some pretty rigorous research, actually. Studies published in the Journal of Dairy Science, for instance.
Okay.
They meticulously quantify the economic hit from various health issues. And when we talk selenium deficiency, we're often talking about a whole cascade of related problems.
Well, like what specifically?
Okay, take mastitis. Super common, incredibly costly, right?
Ugh. Yeah, every producer knows that pain.
A single case can set you back anywhere from, say, $325 to $457. And that's not just the obvious stuff like antibiotics or vet bills.
Great, there's more to it.
You've got discarded milk, the extra labor for treatment, maybe even culling the cow eventually, and definitely a hit on her future production. It's a comprehensive blow to profitability.
So mastitis alone is a massive drain. But the article points out the costs kind of compound, don't they? There's another big one contributing here.
Exactly. Another significant cost, and one that's often tied to selenium status, is retained placenta, each case. That can cost as much as $389.
Wow, another big hit.
And here's the thing. These aren't usually isolated incidents, right? When a cow is selenium deficient, her immune system is compromised. That makes her way more susceptible to a whole chain of issues.
Like a domino effect.
Precisely. She might have a retained placenta, okay? That then makes her prone to mastitis, which then can mess with her fertility or lead to another bout of mastitis down the line.
Okay, see how it adds up fast.
The costs just accumulate because these complications cascade. So when you look at the total impact of multiple issues on one affected cow, yeah, it's very easy for that total financial burden to shoot past $700.
So it's the chain reaction, not just one thing.
It's a compounding problem that just keeps costing you.
Okay, so it's not just the initial disease, it's the downstream chaos that drives that number sky high. And the core problem, is the bovine article identifies it, isn't just the deficiency itself, but how we're trying to fix it.
Right.
It points out that a staggering 60-80% of the selenium in current supplements is basically wasted, just gone.
Mm-hmm. It's the kicker.
That's money literally being flushed away, leading straight to those huge losses. Can you elaborate on that waste? How are producers accidentally, throwing away so much of what they pay for?
Yeah, this is where it gets a bit uncomfortable, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's crucial. The waste happens primarily at the absorption level. It's about bioavailability. Many traditional selenium supplements, especially the older inorganic forms like sodium selenite, while they have notoriously low bioavailability in ruminants,
How low are we talking?
studies consistently show only about 10% to maybe 30% of that inorganic selenium actually gets absorbed and used by the cow.
Only 10 to 30%? Seriously?
Seriously. The vast majority, often 70% to 90%, is either altered by the rumen microbes into a form the cow can't even use, or it just passes straight through the digestive system and out the back end, excreted.
So if you're paying for, say, 100 units of selenium,
You might only be getting the benefit of 10, 20, maybe 30 of those units. The rest, you are quite literally flushing a huge chunk of your investment down the drain.
wow, okay.
And that just perpetuates the underlying deficiency that leads to those expensive health issues like mastitis and retained placentas we were just talking about.
It's a documented economic reality, not just theory. Now, here's where it could get, maybe a bit uncomfortable for some listeners, because the bovine article, it really calls out the feed industry directly on this. What's this dirty secret they mention when it comes to selenium yeast? Because lots of producers think they're already using a better organic form, right? They think they've solved this.
This is a really, really critical point the article brings up, and it's a direct result of what new analytical techniques have shown us.
Okay, what's the secret?
For a long time, selenium yeast was positioned as, the gold standard, the organic, more bioavailable option compared to the inorganic stuff. And look, in principle, when it's made correctly, it can be very effective. But the dirty secret is the huge, often undisclosed variability in the active component within these commercial products.
The active component, you mean?
Selenomethionine, that's the key. It's the specific form of selenium that mimics natural amino acids. The cow's body is designed to absorb and use that form efficiently.
Okay, so it fits the biological lock, so to speak.
Exactly. Think of inorganic selenium, like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Selenomethionine is the perfectly shaped key. It's biologically native, optimized for uptake.
So what's the range of this variability you mentioned? Are we talking small differences, or is it something much more significant that would actually impact herd performance?
Oh, it's drastic. And this is what hammers a producer's bottom line without them even knowing it. There's this advanced lab technique called speciation analysis.
Sounds technical.
It is, but think of it like forensic science for your feed. It identifies the exact chemical forms of selenium in a supplement. And studies using this, published in livestock science journals, have shown the actual selenomethionine content in commercial selenium yeast products. It varies wildly.
How wild?
We're talking levels as low as a shocking 18%.
18.
18%, all the way up to maybe 71.8%. That is a massive, unacceptable range for something supposed to deliver consistent nutrition.
Wow. And what's the average then?
The average across these studies was just 55.8% selenomethionine.
So on average, almost half isn't even the good stuff.
Pretty much.
And if it's not selenomethionine, what is it? What's the other half, roughly, that producers are paying for if it's not the really effective form?
Crucially, the rest is often inactive elemental selenium.
Inactive, meaning?
Meaning it provides zero biological benefit to the cow. It might be in the product, it might show up on a general selenium test, but the cow just can't use it effectively.
So it's just filler, nutritionally speaking.
Essentially, yes. So when the bovine article says producers might unknowingly get as little as 18% of the active ingredient they think they're buying,
Yeah.
it's referring to those products at the bottom end of that quality spectrum. You pay for X amount of selenium, but only a tiny fraction is actually usable selenomethionine that helps your cows.
Okay, this is huge. So the takeaway isn't just organic is better. It's not all organic selenium is created equal. Not even close.
Precisely. You could be paying a premium price for a product that's barely better than the cheapest inorganic option because its actual selenomethionine content is so low.
So you have to ask about the active ingredient, the verified selenomethionine content, not just the label.
You absolutely have to. This inconsistency is a major issue. Producers are basically gambling on supplement quality without even knowing it.
This raises a big question then, doesn't it? If so many farms are already using what they think are these premium organic selenium sources, why are they still struggling with high somatic cell counts, with reproductive failures? The bovine article tackles this straight on.
It does.
It suggests there's a fundamental misunderstanding about what organic selenium even means and what it should deliver. Can you unpack that misunderstanding? What does the science really say about quality?
Yeah, it's a critical misunderstanding, and it gets right to why some strategies just don't work as expected. The term organic selenium has become this broad category, right? But its actual effectiveness hangs entirely on its specific chemical form.
Okay.
When nutritionists talk about genuinely effective organic selenium, they are almost always talking about selenomethionine. That's the gold standard within the organic category.
And is there a benchmark for how much selenomethionine should be in a quality product?
Absolutely. According to solid research from places like the University of California, San Diego, a truly high-quality, genuine selenium yeast product should contain 90% or more of its total selenium in that selenomethionine form.
90%. That's the target.
That's the benchmark. It's not arbitrary. It's what defines a truly bioavailable and effective organic source that will actually deliver the benefits you expect.
Okay, 90%. So what do these independent analyses of commercial products actually on the market show? Are they hitting that mark consistently?
Well, this is the problem. The answer is often a loud no.
Really?
Yeah. Independent analytical studies using those sophisticated techniques like high-performance liquid chromatography, HPLC.
Right, the precision testing.
Exactly. They consistently show that many commercial organic selenium yeast products routinely fail, often by a large margin, to meet that crucial 90% selenomethionine standard.
So the label says selenium yeast, but the reality inside the bag is very different.
Often, yes. The analysis shows that while the product contains selenium, a significant chunk isn't in that highly usable selenomethionine form. It might be elemental selenium or other less useful organic forms that don't provide the same benefit. They just pass through.
Which reinforces that inconsistency issue we just talked about.
Totally. Producers buy something expecting high bioavailability, but the analytical truth often falls way short. And that directly leads to those persistent problems, the high cell counts, the repo issues, even when producers think they're using the best stuff. They're investing in a solution that simply isn't delivering its full promise.
Because the quality isn't guaranteed or even known sometimes.
Exactly. Due to inherent inconsistencies in the product itself.
So what does all this mean for today's dairy cow? I mean, these animals are incredible performers now. The bovine article uses that analogy, comparing them to Formula One race cars.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Can you elaborate on why that's so fitting? And what does it mean for their nutritional needs, especially for something like selenium?
That Formula One analogy is spot on. It speaks directly to the sheer physiological reality of the modern dairy cow. These animals are genetic marvels, right?
Yeah.
Engineered for maximum performance, pushing their metabolic capacity like almost no other creature.
The numbers are pretty staggering.
They are. Think about their intake. Processing 150, maybe 200 pounds of dry matter every single day. That's a mountain of feed needing digestion, absorption, metabolism,
Just churning through it.
and converting that into 100 pounds, sometimes more, of milk per day. That level of production demands an incredible metabolic engine running at full throttle, constantly.
That sounds like an immense amount of internal work, a constant high output state. So where does selenium fit into keeping that high performance engine running smoothly?
Right. So this intense metabolic activity means their cells, particularly the mitochondria, the cellular powerhouses, generating all that energy.
Yeah, back to biology class.
Yeah. They are working serious overtime. And when mitochondria convert nutrients to energy through normal cellular respiration, a natural byproduct is the generation of massive amounts of free radicals.
Free radicals, those are the bad guys, right? Oxidative stress.
Exactly. Highly reactive molecules. If they aren't neutralized, they damage everything. Cell membranes, proteins, even DNA. That damages oxidative stress. It impairs cell function, leads to inflammation, lowers immunity, hurts reproduction.
Okay, so the harder the cow works, the more of these damaging byproducts she produces internally.
Precisely. And this is where antioxidants like selenium become absolutely critical.
Ah, the defense system.
Yes. Selenium is a vital component of several key antioxidant enzymes. The most famous one is glutathione peroxidase, or GPX.
GPX. Think of like GPX as the cell's cleanup crew. It's constantly neutralizing those free radicals, protecting the cells from oxidative damage. Now, if that high-producing dairy cow, that Formula One car, doesn't have enough bioavailable selenium...
The right kind, the usable kind. Her natural antioxidant defenses are severely weakened. She becomes highly vulnerable to that constant barrage of free radicals from her own metabolism, plus any environmental stressors.
And that vulnerability shows up as
exactly the problems we keep circling back to. Higher somatic cell counts, weaker immune responses leading to more mastitis, metritis, impaired reproductive performance. So providing the right form and the right amount of selenium isn't a luxury item.
It's essential maintenance for the engine.
It's a non-negotiable requirement for these elite athletes to perform optimally, stay healthy, and stick around in the herd.
Okay, this isn't just theory, as you said. The Bovine article backs us up with some really compelling real-world results. Let's unpack that landmark study they highlighted from Ballatino Farm in Cremona, Italy. What did they actually do on that farm, and what were the results that should really make producers sit up and take notice?
Yeah, this Italian study is a fantastic example because it demonstrates the tangible benefits in a real commercial dairy setting.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a lab trial.
Right, real cows, real farm.
Exactly. The study, led by Mario Agavino from Altec, Italy, involved 100 Italian Holstein cows at Ballatino Farm. They set up a careful comparison.
How did they compare them?
They had a control group, 48 cows, getting traditional sodium selenite, that's the first-gen inorganic stuff we talked about. Then they had a treatment group, 52 cows, supplemented with a high-quality organic selenium yeast, specifically Celplex, known for its high bioavailability.
Okay, so a direct head-to-head comparison.
Yes, on the same farm, same management, over a sustained period. This allowed them to really see the real-world impact under commercial conditions.
And what was the first, most immediate difference they saw? Something quantifiable?
The most striking immediate result was in the milk itself. The selenium content in the milk doubled. Doubled. Cows getting the organic selenium had milk selenium levels of 0.058 milligrams per liter. The inorganic group, only 0.029.
Wow, that's a huge difference. What does that mean practically?
Well, it's significant not just for the cow's own status, but potentially for the calf drinking that milk. And even for human consumers down the line, something we can touch on later with the One Health idea, better nutrition passing through.
Okay, doubled milk selenium is impressive, but what about the things that hit the producer's pocketbook directly? Production, health.
Right. Here's where it gets really compelling for the bottom line. The cows on the organic selenium produce significantly more milk.
How much more?
They average 37.9 kilograms per day compared to 36.5 kilograms for the control group. That's an increase of 1.4 kilograms per cow per day.
1.4 kilos. That's about 3 pounds, right?
Just over 3 pounds, yeah. 3.08 pounds per cow per day, more milk. That's meaningful yield.
Definitely. And udder health, somatic cells.
Big improvement there, too. Somatic cell counts were significantly lower in the organic group, down to 272,000 cells per milliliter, compared to 320,000 in the control group.
Okay, so healthier udders, less subclinical mastitis.
Exactly. Less inflammation, fewer potential mastitis flare-ups, less discarded milk. Big savings there.
And reproduction. That's always a huge factor in profitability and efficiency. What did the Italian study show there?
This is maybe one of the most dramatic findings. The organic selenium group showed a massive improvement in reproductive performance. They hit an 83% confirmed pregnancy rate.
83%. Compared to what?
Compared to only 67% in the inorganic group.
Wow, 67 to 83%. That's huge for getting cows bred back.
It's a game changer for calving intervals, replacement rates, all those drivers of profit.
Yeah.
And they drill down into specifics too. Fewer retained placentas. Only 6 cases per 100 cows in the organic group versus 10 in the control. Days to confirm pregnancy were lower, 130 days versus 139. And services per conception improved down to 1.63 from 1.81.
So across the board, better reproductive efficiency.
Every metric pointed towards a more efficient, more profitable reproductive cycle for the cows on the optimized selenium. Real money saved, real money earned.
Okay, this is where, as they say, the rubber meets the road for producers listening. That 1.4 kilogram increase in milk yield per day, you said about 3 pounds. What does that actually translate to in dollars and cents? The Bovine article did the math, right?
They did, and it really highlights the return on investment. That 1.4 kilograms or 3.08 pounds of extra milk per cow per day. Okay, it might sound modest on its own.
Yeah, per cow per day.
But multiply it across the herd, across the year. It adds up incredibly fast. At current milk prices, that translates to roughly $0.64 in additional revenue per cow.
Per day. 64 cents extra every day from just one cow.
Precisely. Now, extrapolate that out. Over a full year for just one cow, that's an extra $234 in milk revenue.
$234 per cow per year just from the extra milk.
Yep. Now, think about a typical herd size. Let's use a 100-cow herd as an example.
Okay.
That single improvement in milk yield, just from optimizing the selenium source, that translates to a whopping $23,400 in additional annual revenue for that 100-cow herd.
$23,000 just from switching the type of selenium.
Just from that one component of the benefit, the extra milk yield. This isn't guesswork. It's direct, tangible evidence from that Italian farm study. It shows how a relatively small tweak in the mineral program can give a massive boost to profitability. Concrete proof of ROI.
And it's not just an issue specific to Italy or one region, is it? The Bovine article broadens the view, reminding us selenium deficiency is actually a global problem. What did that big meta-analysis they mentioned tell us about the scope?
You're absolutely right. It's a worldwide challenge. It impacts soil, plants, animals, even human health. It's a big picture issue.
Right.
The article references a really comprehensive meta-analysis. That's where they combine data from lots of individual studies. This one by Knowles and colleagues in the Journal of Dairy Science was huge. It looked at 42 different studies spanning 3 decades, from 1977 to 2007, across multiple continents. Gave a real global snapshot.
So what was the main takeaway from looking at all that data from all over the world over such a long time?
The big overarching finding was pretty stark. Soils in many regions of the world have a low C content, selenium content, yeah.
Okay, so it starts with the ground itself being deficient.
Exactly. It's a fundamental environmental factor. If the soil's low, the forage and crops grown on it are low in selenium too.
Which means the animals eating those feeds.
And even humans eating crops from those areas often don't get enough dietary selenium. It creates this widespread underlying deficiency right from the start. A soil problem becomes a feed problem, becomes an animal health problem.
Did that meta-analysis look at different types of selenium supplements in different places? Did it show if certain forms work better globally?
It did offer some insights there, showing geographical variations. For instance, it specifically noted that in the U.S., cows supplemented with selenium yeast showed significantly higher milk selenium levels, around 0.37 micromoles per liter, compared to cows getting inorganic forms.
So even across different environments, the organic yeast seemed to get more selenium into the milk.
That's what this large analysis suggested, yeah. It reinforces the argument for using those more bioavailable organic forms.
Yeah.
Even with regional soil differences, the form of selenium you supplement with really matters for getting it into the animal and, importantly, into the milk.
And if the soil deficiency wasn't enough, the Bovine article points to another modern farming practice that kind of makes things worse accidentally. The sulfur connection.
It's the sulfur issue.
How does modern agriculture, unintentionally contribute to the selenium problem, almost working against us?
Yeah, it's a classic case of unintended consequences, isn't it? Modern practices, especially using a lot of sulfur-containing fertilizers, which are common and important for other reasons, have inadvertently made selenium deficiency worse. Research confirms that sulfur and selenium basically compete for the same uptake pathways in plant roots.
They use the same doorway into the plant.
Pretty much. And because we apply sulfur fertilizers at much higher rates than the natural selenium levels typically found in soil, sulfur just consistently wins that biological race. The plant takes up more sulfur, leaving less room, less capacity for selenium.
So even if there's some selenium in the soil, the plant grabs the sulfur instead.
Preferentially, yes. Which means lower selenium content in the forages and crops grown, which then means lower selenium intake for the cows eating that feed.
Yeah.
It's the silent competition happening right at the root level that directly impacts our animal nutrition, makes supplementation even more critical.
Okay, now here's a twist, something that might challenge what some listeners assume, and it's why we have to keep looking at the latest research, right?
Always. Science evolves.
The bovine article points to a very recent 2024 study, Cruikshank and colleagues, Journal of Dairy Science. It offered some surprising insights, apparently. What did they find? It sounds like it might muddy the waters a bit on organic versus inorganic.
Yeah, this Cruikshank study from 2024 is fascinating because on the surface, it seems to contradict some of what we've been saying, at least in certain ways.
How so?
They studied multi-paris Holstein cows, and their main finding was, and I'm quoting here, regardless of whether selenium came from organic or inorganic sources, it did not affect the cow's absorption of the mineral, their selenium levels, or their overall performance.
Whoa. Okay, that does sound counterintuitive after everything about bioavailability in the Italian study showing big performance differences. If overall absorption and performance look similar in this specific study, what was the catch? There has to be a nuance here, right?
There absolutely is a critical nuance, and the researchers themselves pointed it out. While overall absorption and maybe some performance metrics look similar in their trial, they saw a very important difference elsewhere.
Which was?
Organic selenium resulted in higher selenium levels in milk, with less being excreted through urine.
Ah, okay, so more going into the milk, less going out in the waste. Why is that distinction so important?
For a couple of key reasons. First, higher selenium in the milk means a more nutrient-dense product. That ties back to the potential health benefits for consumers or calves getting selenium in that highly bioavailable milk form.
Right, the value-added aspect.
Second, less excretion via urine means less mineral waste going into the environment. That's an efficiency and sustainability plus.
Okay.
So rather than totally overturning the benefits of organic selenium, this study subtly highlights something else we discussed: the importance of product quality and consistency.
How so?
Well, it suggests that even in a study designed to find differences, if the specific organic product used wasn't perhaps optimally formulated or consistently high in selenomethionine, you might not see the full potential benefits manifest in all parameters measured.
So it reinforces the idea that you need to be really picky about which organic product you choose.
Exactly. It underscores that the potential of high-quality organic forms is superior, but producers still need proof of that quality. It's not just about the category, it's about the specific product's verified composition.
Got it. Now, shifting gears, slightly but still highly relevant heat stress. It's a huge concern. It seems to be getting worse, right?
Absolutely. Major issue globally.
The bovine article highlighted some really compelling research on selenium's role here, specifically looking at a newer form, hydroxyselenomethionine, or HMCBA. What did that Journal of Dairy Science study find? How can this form help cows cope?
Yeah, this HMCBA research is incredibly timely. Heat stress just wreaks havoc on dairy cows' health, welfare, milk production, everything. So this study was done in controlled environmental chambers. That let the researchers really induce consistent heat stress and compare apples to apples. They took mid-lactation Holsteins and compared standard inorganic selenium, sodium selenite, with supplementation using HMCBA.
See which one helped the cows handle the heat better.
Precisely. They wanted to see how the different forms affected the cow's ability to manage the physiological challenges of being overheated.
And what did they find? Did HMCBA make a real measurable difference in resilience?
The results were pretty powerful, yeah. Showed a clear advantage for HMCBA in mitigating those negative effects. The study found that HMCBA supplementation decreased some parameters of heat stress-induced oxidative stress.
Back to oxidative stress. Heat makes it worse.
Dramatically worse. Heat ramps up free radical production like crazy. So finding something that combats that is huge.
So what specific things improved with HMCBA?
Okay, several key things. First, cows on HMCBA had higher selenium levels in both their blood serum and their milk during the heat stress period.
So better absorption and retention when they needed it most.
Exactly. Second, remember glutathione peroxidase, GPX? that key antioxidant enzyme.
Cleanup crew, yeah.
Its activity was maintained in the HMCBA group. In the control cows getting inorganic selenium, GPX activity actually declined under heat stress.
So the HMCBA cows kept their internal defense system running strong.
Right. Third, HMCBA led to an increased total antioxidant capacity overall, a stronger shield, basically. And finally, they saw decreased levels of oxidative stress markers, things like malondialdehyde, hydrogen peroxide, nitric oxide. These are like the damage signals in the cells. Seeing them go down means significant protection.
That sounds pretty comprehensive on the internal resilience front. Did they see any impact on milk production? Because that usually takes a nosedive in the heat.
Yes, importantly, they also saw a tendency for milk yield to increase in the HMCBA group compared to controls under heat stress. Although, interestingly, there was also a tendency for milk fat percentage to decrease slightly.
Okay, so maybe a slight composition shift, but potentially holding on to yield better.
It suggests HMCBA helped cows maintain that antioxidant function and sustain productivity under really tough conditions. Given climate trends, optimizing selenium, especially with these advanced forms like HMCBA, looks like a critical strategy for building heat resilience from the inside out.
The Bovine article uses this helpful framework, categorizing selenium supplements into generations. It really clarifies the evolution. Let's start with generation 1. The article calls it obsolete, even though it's still widely used. What are its main limitations? Why is it considered so inefficient now?
Generation 1 is sodium selenite, the basic inorganic form. And yeah, obsolete sounds harsh, but from a bioavailability standpoint, in ruminants, it kind of is.
Why? What's the core problem?
Its primary limitation is just incredibly poor absorption. As we mentioned, studies consistently show cows only absorb maybe 10% to 30% of the selenium from selenite.
So 70-90% is just wasted.
Wasted. It's like trying to fill a leaky bucket.
Why is it so poorly absorbed specifically in ruminants? What happens inside the cow's system?
It mainly happens in the rumen, that first big stomach compartment. The rumen microbes, the bacteria and protozoa in there, they rapidly reduce the inorganic selenite into an insoluble form. Basically, they change its chemical structure.
And once it's insoluble,
the cow can't absorb it. It just passes through the digestive tract and gets excreted in the manure. It provides very little actual biological benefit because it can't get into the bloodstream and tissues to be used in those important enzymes like GPX.
So even if it's the cheapest per pound or per kilo on the label,
it's often the most expensive when you calculate the cost per unit of effective usable selenium that the cow actually benefits from. It's a classic penny-wise, pound-foolish scenario.
Okay, that's Gen 1. Moving to Generation 2, selenium yeast. This was hailed as the organic solution for a long time, a big step up, but the Bovine article argues it has major quality control issues. What are these dirty secrets that better analysis has uncovered, even in products maybe seen as premium?
Right. Generation 2 is selenium yeast. It definitely represented progress because the yeast organism itself converts inorganic selenium into organic forms, mainly that key player, selenomethionine, within its own cell structure. The concept is solid.
But the execution
can be highly variable. That's the dirty secret exposed by these advanced analytical methods, the speciation analysis we talked about. It revealed massive, frankly unacceptable inconsistencies in the quality of commercial selenium yeast products out there.
Inconsistency in what specifically? In
the actual amount of selenium present as selenomethionine. Remember, that's the highly bioavailable form we want. The analysis showed products on the market ranging from that low of 18% selenomethionine all the way up to maybe 71.8%.
With an average around 55%.
Exactly. Meaning, on average, almost half the selenium in a typical selenium yeast product might not be in that optimal selenomethionine form.
So even paying for a supposedly premium organic source, producers might get a product where a huge chunk of the selenium is effectively unusable, or at least not optimal.
Precisely. The rest is often that inactive elemental selenium or other less valuable organic forms. It just doesn't contribute much. So while some selenium yeast products are excellent and meet high standards,
others are really unreliable.
Very unreliable. A producer could pay a premium and unknowingly get something barely better than basic selenite because the actual selenomethionine content is so low. This lack of guaranteed quality control across the industry for this category is a huge problem. It directly impacts farm results and profitability, often completely invisibly to the producer.
Okay, that leads us to Generation 3. The bovine article calls this the precision solution. Sounds like a significant leap forward, really targeted nutrition. What does recent research, like that brand new 2025 study they mentioned, tell us about these newer forms?
Yeah, Generation 3 really represents that next step. Precision trace mineral nutrition. These are typically things like chelated organic trace minerals.
Chelated, meaning?
It means the selenium is precisely bound, usually to specific amino acids. This chelation process creates a highly stable molecule that protects the selenium through the rumen, ensures maximum absorption in the intestine, and delivers it consistently.
So protected delivery, better absorption.
Exactly. The bovine article points to that very recent 2025 study in the journal Animals. It looks specifically at supplementing late lactation dairy cows with this type of advanced organic selenium, often in combination with other chelated minerals like zinc.
And what did that 2025 study find? Did it validate this precision solution idea, especially regarding immunity and antioxidant activity?
It really did. The study concluded that supplementation of organic zinc and selenium in late lactation dairy cows in the form of chelated zinc amino acid and selenium amino acid complex had positive effects on immunity and antioxidant activity.
Positive effects on immunity and antioxidant activity, key areas.
Absolutely. It shows that these next-gen forms, engineered for maximum bioavailability and stability, can directly enhance those critical systems, the immune response, the body's ability to fight oxidative stress. Unlike the variable quality gamble with some Gen 2 products, these precision forms are designed for consistency. The goal is that every dollar spent delivers the maximum possible biological benefit. It truly marks a shift towards making selenium a reliable profit driver, not just a cost you hope is working.
Okay, to really hammer home the value of upgrading, the bovine article circles back to that Italian Holstein study. It provides that concrete return on investment analysis that makes such a powerful case. Can you break down those verified numbers again? What was the actual tangible ROI for the producers who made the switch in that study?
Yeah, this is where the theory gets the bank account right. The Valentino farm study didn't just observe better cows, they crunched the numbers meticulously.
What was the cost versus the benefit?
Okay, for their 100 cow herd, the added cost of upgrading to the optimized organic selenium program using Cellplex was really quite modest, just $810 annually.
810 euros for the whole year for 100 cows. That's the extra investment.
That's the extra investment. Seems pretty minimal in the grand scheme of running a dairy, right?
Definitely. So what was the documented return on that 810?
The documented benefits were remarkable. They calculated a total annual benefit of 7,380 girls for that same 100 cow herd.
7,000 euros back.
7,380 apps. So you subtract the 810 cost. The net benefit was a substantial 6,578 annually.
Which is over 7,000 US dollars, roughly.
Exactly. And that resulted in an extraordinary return on investment, an ROI of 9 to 1.
9 to 1 ROI.
9 to 1. For every single euro they invested in that premium selenium, they got 9 euros back in documented benefits. That's phenomenal. You just don't see that kind of return on many farm inputs.
$9 back for every $1 spent.
Wow.
That's the verified power they're talking about.
Verified game-changing power based on that specific strategy in that trial.
And it wasn't just a vague financial gain, right? The study linked those returns to very specific, measurable improvements in the herd's performance. Can you quickly recap those? Where did that 7,388 euros in benefits actually come from?
Absolutely. That 9.1 ROI wasn't magic. It was built on concrete improvements. First, a huge chunk came from better reproductive efficiency. They documented 9 fewer open days per cow per year. That alone was valued at 2,700 euro for the 100 cows. Fewer open days means faster pregnancies, less time not milking, better calving intervals.
Huge efficiency gain.
Massive. Second, the increased milk production we talked about. That consistent 1.3 liters, about 1.4 kilograms per day per cow increase, added up to 4,680 in value for the herd over the year. That extra milk just keeps flowing.
Okay, so repro and milk yield were the big drivers.
They were huge, but there were others too. Significant reductions in costly health problems. Retained placentas were almost halved down from 10 cases per 100 cows to just 6. That means less vet intervention, less labor, fewer downstream repo issues.
Right.
Plus, lower days to confirm pregnancy, 130 versus 139, and better services per conception, 1.63 versus 1.81. All these factors combined create a healthier, more productive, and ultimately a much more profitable herd. This detailed breakdown really shows why upgrading selenium isn't just a cost, it's a high return investment.
Okay, so if the science is so clear and the economics are that compelling, I mean, 9-to-1 ROI is incredible. Why isn't everyone already making the switch? The bovine article touches on some common hurdles, some implementation challenges. Let's start with the first one, cost perception. That feeling that premium selenium supplements are just too expensive. How do we tackle that?
Yeah, it's a very common first reaction and understandable. You look at the price per bag or per ton, and yes, the third-gen precision products often cost 2 to 3 times more than basic inorganic selenite.
Right, sticker shock.
But this is where bioavailability flips the script. You're not just buying selenium, you're buying effective, usable selenium. Because these premium forms are absorbed so much better, delivering maybe 3 to 5 times more effective selenium per dollar spent.
So the cost per effective unit is actually much closer or even lower.
Potentially much lower, yes.
Yeah.
The initial higher unit cost gets rapidly offset by the actual biological value delivered. You have to think about the cost of the result, not just the cost of the ingredient.
It's about net value, the true cost of getting the job done inside the cow. And the bovine article highlights that with Agovino's research again.
Exactly. Mario Agovino's work powerfully showed that preventing just one single case of mastitis, which costs hundreds of dollars, remember.
$325 to $457, yeah.
That prevention can actually pay for the entire herd's annual premium selenium supplement program several times over.
One case pays for the whole herd for a year.
Potentially, yes, depending on herd size and the specific costs. But when you frame it like the cost of not preventing these issues versus the cost of the supplement, the idea that premium selenium is too expensive just evaporates. It's an investment that prevents much larger losses.
Okay, that reframes the cost argument powerfully. Now, speaking of real-world application and quality, that 2024 Cruikshank study we discussed, it found similar performance in some areas despite using organic versus inorganic. How does that highlight the ongoing need for producers to be super careful about the specific product they choose, even within the organic category?
That study is a great reminder that real-world results depend heavily on product quality. By showing similar results in some metrics, even when differences were expected, it really points a finger at the variability within commercial organic selenium products.
Meaning,
even if the potential for organic selenium is superior, if the specific product used in that trial or the one you buy isn't consistently high in that crucial bioavailable selenomethionine, well, you might not see all the benefits you're hoping for.
So the study's results might reflect the specific products used as much as the categories themselves.
It's certainly a possibility. It implicitly tells producers, simply buying anything labeled organic selenium isn't a guarantee. You absolutely must demand proof of the active ingredient content, the selenomethionine level, and consistency data from your supplier. Don't just trust the label. Be an informed, critical buyer.
Demand the data. Got it. And finally, on limitations, is selenium optimization a silver bullet? Or does it need careful balancing with everything else in the diet?
Definitely not a silver bullet. That's crucial to understand. While selenium optimization is incredibly powerful, it's still just one piece of a complex nutritional puzzle.
How so?
Well, remember that 2025 Animals Journal study. Well, it showed positive effects on immunity and antioxidant status.
Yeah.
It also noted that selenium supplementation induced a reduction in fat percentage, and solids content showed a tendency to decrease.
So potential trade-offs in milk components.
Potentially, yes, or at least subtle shifts. It means selenium optimization needs to be integrated carefully within the entire nutritional program. You need to balance it with energy, protein, other minerals, vitamins. Everything has to work together. You can't just throw in more selenium and expect miracles if other parts of the ration are off. It's about strategic integration, not just adding one thing in isolation.
Makes sense. Holistic approach. Now, we've focused heavily, and rightly so, on herd health and farm profitability. But the bovine article broadens the horizon to this concept called One Health. What's this bigger picture? What's the opportunity here for dairy producers that goes beyond their own farm gate?
Yeah, the One Health idea is really important. It recognizes that the health of animals, people, and the environment are all linked. They influence each other. And selenium optimization is a perfect example of this principle in action.
How does better selenium for cows connect to human health or the environment?
Well, remember that meta-analysis by Knowles et al. It confirmed that using organic selenium could enhance the selenium content in milk.
Right, we saw that in the Italian study too, doubled the milk, say.
Exactly, providing potential benefits for consumers or calves and reducing environmental mineral waste. It's a win-win-win.
So producers can actually create a milk product that offers more direct health benefits to the people drinking it. making it more valuable.
That's precisely the opportunity. When you supplement cows with highly bioavailable organic selenium, it significantly boosts the selenium level in the milk. And crucially, it's mostly in that selenomethionine form, bound within the milk proteins.
And that form is good for humans.
Highly bioavailable for humans.
Uh-huh.
Studies show around 90% absorption from milk. So consumers drinking that selenium-optimized milk get a direct, usable dose of this essential nutrient.
That sounds like a potentially powerful marketing angle in today's health-conscious market, a way to differentiate.
It absolutely is. Think about functional foods, added nutritional benefits. Consumers are actively looking for that. If a dairy producer can scientifically demonstrate their milk offers enhanced levels of a vital nutrient like selenium,
They have a unique story to tell.
a unique selling proposition. It moves their milk beyond just a basic commodity towards a value-added product. It taps into that growing market segment focused on health and wellness. It could potentially justify a premium price, all while benefiting the herd's health and reducing mineral waste. It's smart business thinking beyond the farm fence.
Okay, let's get really practical now. The Bullvine article lays out a clear, actionable 4-phase strategy, a roadmap for making the switch to an optimized selenium program without causing chaos on the farm. Let's walk through it step by step so listeners know exactly what their next strategic move could look like.
Sounds good. It's a logical progression. Phase 1 is diagnostic assessment. This is month 1. You got to start by knowing where you stand.
Baseline testing.
Exactly. Comprehensive herd testing using blood selenium analysis.
Yeah.
What are your current levels?
The target for optimal status is generally considered above 8,100 micrograms per liter in plasma, ideally over 100.
Why is this baseline so critical? Because you need to know your starting point to measure progress later. It confirms if there's even a need, and it validates the effectiveness of the changes you make. Plus, the cost is pretty reasonable, usually around $15 to $25 per blood sample, a small investment for vital data.
Okay, phase 1. Test and know your numbers. What's phase 2?
Phase 2 is critical product evaluation. This overlaps a bit, month 1 to 2. This is where you put your supplier under the microscope.
Become an informed buyer.
Precisely. Demand specific documentation. Ask for the exact form of selenium, purity guarantees, and most importantly, analytical testing results. Specifically for selenium yeast, you must demand verification of the selenomethionine content.
And if they can't provide it?
The Bullvine article puts it bluntly. If your supplier can't or won't provide clear, scientifically validated data on selenomethionine content for their yeast product, well, that tells you everything you need to know about its quality and consistency. Big red flag. Don't accept vague answers.
Demand the proof. Okay, powerful advice. So you've tested, you've evaluated, you've chosen a high-quality, verified product. What's phase 3?
Phase 3, strategic implementation. This is maybe month 2 to 3. You don't necessarily need to switch the entire herd overnight.
Target the change.
Yes. The Italian research strongly suggests focusing your upgrade efforts on the most critical periods gives the highest ROI. That means prioritizing your dry cows and your early lactation cows.
Why them specifically?
Because that's when their immune systems are under the most pressure, when metabolic demands are peaking. Getting selenium right during transition and early lactation is absolutely vital for preventing those costly diseases and setting them up for a productive lactation. Target your investment where it counts most first.
Smart. Maximize impact. Okay, phase 4. You've implemented the change in those key groups. Now what?
Phase 4. Performance monitoring. This is ongoing, starting around month 3 to 6 and continuing. First, retest selenium status about 90 days after you implement the change. Confirm that blood levels are now consistently in that optimal range.
Verify the change worked biochemically.
Yes. But more importantly, you need to rigorously track your key performance indicators, your KPIs. Use that Italian study as your benchmark model.
What KPIs should producers focus on?
Look at somatic cell count trends. Are you seeing that reduction? Aiming for that drop from, say, 320,000 down towards 272,000 like they saw. Monitor milk yield. Are you seeing that 1.4 kilogram or 3-pound increase per day? And critically, track reproductive metrics. Is your confirmed pregnancy rate climbing towards that 83% mark? Are days open decreasing? Services per conception improving?
So track the actual outcomes that prove the economic benefit.
Exactly. These are the direct measurable results that confirm your strategic upgrade is working and delivering that ROI. This structured, phased approach makes the transition manageable and the results undeniable on your bottom line.
So let's bring it all together. Remember that $700 per cow figure we started with?
Hard to forget.
The bovine article really drives home that even that might underestimate the true total economic impact when you factor in everything: the better health, the improved reproduction, the higher yield, the potential milk quality benefits.
It all adds up.
The research seems incredibly clear, the economics look compelling, and the opportunities seem pretty immediate.
Absolutely. The research-backed reality is hard to argue with. You've got the Italian study with its stunning 9.1 ROI showing clear gains. You've got the meta-analysis confirming organic sources boost milk selenium. You've got the heat stress research showing improved antioxidant function with newer forms like HMCBA. And those recent 2025 studies confirming immune and antioxidant benefits from third-gen products. The science is really pointing in one direction.
So the choice really isn't about whether you can afford to upgrade your selenium program.
It's whether you can afford not to.
Right. Preventing just a couple of cases of mastitis, maybe a few retained placentas over a year, that easily pays for the entire herd's premium selenium supplement cost, potentially several times over, based on those cost figures we discussed.
When you look at the cost of those diseases versus the cost of prevention, the math becomes very clear.
It really seems like one of the highest ROI opportunities available right now for immediate implementation on farm.
So, what's the next step? Your next strategic move should be clear. Contact your nutritionist this week.
Don't wait.
No. Demand a detailed breakdown of your current selenium program. Ask for the analytical specifications. Specifically, ask about selenomethionine content verification if you're using yeast. Ask about batch consistency guarantees. Ask for bioavailability data backed by research.
And if they can't provide clear, scientifically backed answers.
Then, as the bovine article implies, you've likely just found a major reason why your current selenium strategy might be underperforming and costing you way more than you realize in hidden losses. Don't settle for guesswork or vague assurances. Demand the data.
The dairy industry today, it really rewards operators who make decisions based on evidence, not just tradition, doesn't it?
It has to. Margins are too tight for guesswork.
And this bovine article makes it abundantly clear. Selenium strategy is one area where the peer-reviewed research points decisively towards an upgrade that pays for itself and then generates significant profit through better health, lower costs, and higher production.
The evidence is strong.
So the final crucial question for everyone listening is this. Will you keep paying potentially premium prices for inconsistent results, gambling on product quality you can't actually verify, or will you invest in proven third-generation technology that transforms selenium from a hidden cost center into a documented profit driver with verified 9-to-1 returns?
It's a choice with significant financial implications.
It really is a decision that could genuinely redefine your farm's profitability. Something to think seriously about this week.
That's a wrap on today's episode of the Bovine Podcast. If this analysis of selenium supplementation strategy has you questioning your current mineral program, you're asking the right questions. The research is clear, the economics are compelling, and the implementation roadmap is proven. Remember, the dairy industry rewards operators who make decisions based on evidence rather than tradition. Your selenium strategy represents one of the highest ROI investments you can make for improved herd health and reduced treatment costs. For the complete article, with all the research citations, implementation guidelines, and economic analysis we discussed today, visit www.thebovine.com. You'll find detailed breakdowns of the Italian Holstein study, the 4-phase implementation strategy, and specific questions to ask your nutritionist about selenium quality verification. Don't forget to subscribe to the Bovine Podcast for more bold dairy industry insights that challenge the status quo. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in dairy production. This has been the Bovine Podcast. Stay progressive.